Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today on SiteCom Rig. This will be presented by Rodrigo Zozaya, our Customer Success Manager for Wells in Americas, and I'll be your host today, Jacob Carrion-Polly. We'll allow just another minute for a few more attendees to join. Okay, we can go ahead and get started. I'd like to remind everyone about our series of webinars relating to SiteCom. This is our 6th webinar in our SiteCom webinar series. This webinar, along with all other webinar recordings, can be found at the community portal at community.kongsbergdigital.com. I'd also like to remind you of our upcoming webinars relating to topics including SiteCom Global Mnemonics and the Global Mnemonics Hub, SiteCom Video Presence, and SiteCom Chat. Also, if you're able to join in person, we have our Tomorrow Show event. We've just concluded our Tomorrow Show event in Oslo, the last week of September. And we have our upcoming event in Houston, October 22nd, following some product-specific tracks on the 23rd. This is a major event that we try to host to have some involvement with our customers and also demonstrate some of our thought leadership and insight and ways forward. Please feel free to register at the URL, tomorrowshow.com. A quick introduction on Kongsberg. We focus on protecting people and planet through technology. Kongsberg is a technology powerhouse with our major divisions including Kongsberg Maritime, Kongsberg Defense and Aerospace, Kongsberg Discovery, and Kongsberg Digital. We cover domains from deep sea to outer space. With Kongsberg Digital, we shape the future of work through different product lines and applications, including through CogniTwin for asset optimization and flexibility and balancing of grids, carbon capture and storage with simulation, as well as Vessel Insight for fuel consumption and fuel transition, maritime simulation for training and e-learning, and especially SiteCom, which is our real-time data management and infrastructure platform. What is SiteCom? So SiteCom is our real-time data management strategy and infrastructure for digital drilling and wells applications. We provide real-time advisory, KPIs, analytics, and performance optimization. With web-based functional design displays, we also enable QA and QC with monitoring and alarming, with a robust central integrated database and standardized data acquisition. So globally, we're looking at about 600 plus active rigs daily for SiteCom, with single instances serving over 240 plus rig feeds. We typically have about 3,000 new wells, along with 4,000 new well bores each year. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Rodrigo Zozaya. Rodrigo is our Customer Success Manager in the Americas and has been instrumental in driving this company's operations for over 13 years. While he's worked across the globe supporting our customers' operations, he's currently based in Houston, Texas, and brings several years of experience in operations and support, working directly with our customers to solve the many challenges they face in data aggregation and standardization. Now I'll hand it off to Rodrigo.
Thank you, Jacob. Thanks. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar, where I will try just to explain you what is SiteCom Rig and give you an overview of the different features and functionality that a SiteCom Rig system can bring to your organization. So first, I will start with what is SiteCom Rig. So I wanted to show you this diagram where we can see a typical scenario for the real-time data, where we can see here in the bottom part how the data is received on the rig. This is the part that we'll be focusing on today. Then all this data is transferred to a central location, typically, where it's available for a ton of different uses, application, visualization, calculations, etc., etc. But today we'll be focusing on this part, the acquisition on the rig, on site, and then the data synchronization to the central location. So a SiteCom Rig system is a SiteCom instance that is located on the rig. It allows the company to receive the data right from the source by being on the rig. All this data, an important feature of this system is that all the data that is received on the rig is stored using the WITSML standard, which is an open standard. How does it run? It runs on either a physical server or a virtual machine, and it runs on top of the Windows Server operating system. With a SiteCom Rig system, we try to cover several use cases, and some of them I will just try to show you right now. So data aggregation. This is important because we are able to receive all this data from different data providers on the rig, multiple sources. In most of the cases, it's multiple data transmission protocols, but everything on the rig. Data standardization is very critical for us. So that's why we convert all these different incoming data formats to the open standard, which is WITSML. All this data is then stored locally on the SiteCom Rig system, and this data repository enables secure connectivity to a central location for central synchronization of the data received on the rig, or for third-party data consumers on the rig itself. As I just mentioned, a SiteCom Rig system enables the possibility of syncing the data to a central location onshore. And once the data is stored on the central location, well, it's secure. It provides global accessibility, all using secure data transmission. Data loss prevention is a really important factor for all our customers. So that's why we have in place buffer mechanisms to, even when something goes wrong with the communications to the rig, we are able to keep storing all the data. And once the communications are restored, we are able to send the data again to the central location with no issue, no data loss. And then finally, another key factor for us is data redundancy. So we know that all this data is critical for operations. So we are able, by using the SiteCom Rig system, we are able to store all this critical data in more than one location, providing the data redundancy. Now, what are the main components for a SiteCom Rig system? First, we can mention the SiteCom WITSML store. Currently, we are supporting the WITSML standards 1.3.1, 1.4.1, but coming soon, we'll have compatibility, full compatibility with the WITSML version 2.1. Another key component of a SiteCom Rig system is the SiteCom Sensor Converter application. And this application allows the conversion of non-WITSML incoming data feeds to WITSML data, which eventually gets stored in the SiteCom store database. And finally, another key component is the SiteCom Synchronizer. This application allows us to pull the data from different WITSML sources, and also allows us to push the data to external WITSML store. In most cases, is a SiteCom central system, but we've also been able to push data to third-party WITSML stores. Now, regarding the data inputs. So the most basic case that we have is a WITSML feed that is pushed directly by the data provider to the local SiteCom WITSML store. In this case, we just provide the URL for the WITSML store, and then the data provider starts pushing the WITSML data or everything already in WITSML format, and then everything is stored. No further processing is required on our end. However, there is also the possibility to, instead of receiving a WITSML feed pushed directly by a third party, we are able to, by using our SiteCom Synchronizer application, we are able to connect to a WITSML store located on site, and we are able to pull the data that a third-party provider might have available there. Finally, the most common data flow that we receive on a SiteCom Rig system is comes from different data formats. All these data formats are processed by our SiteCom Sensor Converter application, and then they are converted to WITSML, and then everything is stored in the WITSML store in WITSML format. Some examples of the different formats that Sensor Converter is able to process are WIT0, OPC-DA or OPC Classic, OPC UA, NMEA, and an ASCII data feed. So how does this work? So typically we receive via TCP connection, we receive any of these data feeds WIT0, NMEA, ASCII, and they are received and processed by our SiteCom Sensor Converter application. The application converts to WITSML format, and then the data is sent to the store, the SiteCom store service running there, and then the data is stored. Another possibility is if the data provider can only send the data using a serial port because of some legacy system. We typically use a serial to TCP converter, which we can see here. And then once the data is converted to TCP, then we just process just like I just explained for the previous example. Finally, another possibility is when talking about OPC connections. Well, we establish the connection to an OPC server, then we receive the data in OPC DA or OPC UA format, and then Sensor Converter just receives the data and does the conversion just like in the previous two cases. Now I would like to show you an example of the Sensor Converter user interface, the client only. In this client, we have several panels. The first one to the left indicates the instance that we are connected to, and that's the rig name typically. Then in this second panel, we can see all the different connections that we have configured. In this case, all these are sending data to us. We can see some details here about the amount of data that has been received, the connection status, and then some basic connectivity information. When we select one of these in this panel, then in the bottom part of the client, we can see the different configuration that has been put in place for that particular connection. Typically, we can see a number of different WITS records or different WITSML configuration that we have put in place for OPC instances, for example. And then when we select those here, we can see the full list of the mnemonics or sensors that have been configured for that particular group of configuration. By using this graphical interface, we are able to easily identify whenever there is a connectivity problem with one of the sources, or we can easily check if all the different values for the different sensors are being received or not. Now, I've already mentioned that SiteCom Synchronizer is another key part. This is the interface that we use for the SiteCom Synchronizer client. It's very similar to SiteCom Sensor Converter. So in this, to the left, we can see the different connections, the different WITSML servers that we have configured the connection for. Then when we select one of these, here on this part, we can see the different synchronization jobs that we have configured for that particular connection, right? And then when we select one of these jobs, we can see all the different configuration details here in the bottom part. Examples of what can be configured are we can define the source and the target WITSML server. We can define some filters if we decide to filter based on the type of WITSML objects, or if we define, for example, in the case of WITSML logs, if we are filtering even at the mnemonic level. We can also see the frequency of these synchronization jobs and some other configuration. So this is an easy way for us to see the status of the different connections and the status of the different synchronization jobs. So now I would like to um, tell you a little bit about the different SiteCom Rig types. Um, since the customers have different goals and different needs, we have several different types of configuration for a SiteCom Rig system. The most complete one and the typical one that we use for customers is what we call just SiteCom Rig. We consider that as a full installation. This type of configuration enables all rig synchronization plus local visualization. This is very important in some cases for some customers because by having local visualization, users on the rig don't need to rely on connectivity to a central location when sometimes connectivity from the rig to onshore is not that good. So by having local visualization, they have an easy way to see the data that is being received real time, and but just by connecting to a local instance, in this case, the SiteCom Rig system. We also have another type of configuration that we call SiteCom Rig Lite. So basically, this is really similar to the previous configuration, except for there is no local visualization. And finally, the most basic one is what we call the SiteCom Rig WITSML configuration. And this basically only enables pulling and pushing WITSML data from or to the different data providers on the rig. We have additional functionality that can be also configured for a SiteCom Rig system based on the customer needs. In some cases, we've seen that there is the need to create some composite logs using only some of the mnemonics that are received from the different data providers on the rig. And in order for us to create this type of logs, we can make the global mnemonics, our global mnemonics application available. And this application enables the creation of this type of logs using mnemonics coming from different data providers and using the naming convention that the customer needs. That's why we consider this part of the standardization goals that we are able to meet. Another scenario that we've seen with customers is that sometimes some customers need to perform some calculations using the incoming real-time data feeds. So in order to accomplish that, we are able to configure and install what we call the Smart Agent service. This is basically a calculation engine which allows our customers to configure several calculations using the real-time data inputs. I would like to show you some data flow examples. The first one, a typical one, is we have the local aggregation, and then all the data is synced to the central system. So here we have all these different incoming data feeds that are feeding the SiteCom Rig system. Then the SiteCom Rig system provides local visualization. We can see here. And then using ETP protocol, the latest technology, we are able to synchronize all the data from the SiteCom Rig system to the SiteCom Central system, where it just allows all the data to be accessed globally, if that's the customer needs. Another example of data flow is very similar to the previous one, in which we receive all these data feeds locally on the rig. Everything is processed by the SiteCom Rig server. We have the visualization in place locally, but then there is no central location to synchronize the data to. Another example is this one, where we are receiving all the incoming data feeds. They are processed by the SiteCom Rig server instead of having synchronization to a central location or even having a local visualization. We only have the WITSML store available for third-party data consumption. This is typically a scenario when our customer has to perform some external calculation, and that external calculation is performed by some system on the rig, which connects to our WITSML store and then pulls the data, and then it performs all the calculation that is needed for the customer. Another scenario that we have is we have all these incoming data feeds. They are received by the SiteCom Rig box, but then instead of writing directly to the local instance of the WITSML store, the sensor converter application sends all the WITSML data directly to the SiteCom Central system, where everything is stored, and then the data becomes available for visualization or third-party consumption. Finally, I would like to tell you a little bit about data redundancy that I have mentioned before. So basically, we have two main ways to achieve this. One is to receive, just like I've explained in the previous example, to receive everything in the SiteCom Rig system. In this case, we call it the primary system. And then at the same time, we have another system on the rig, which we call the SiteCom Rig secondary system. And then by using the SiteCom Synchronizer application, we synchronize all the data between the SiteCom Rig primary, which processes the data directly from the different data providers, and then we synchronize everything to the SiteCom Rig secondary. So by doing this, we have all the data in two different places at the same time. Another way to do this is instead of just processing the data in on one of the rig on the SiteCom Rig boxes, at the same time we receive all the different data feeds on both the SiteCom Rig primary and secondary systems. The data is processed independently of each other, and then everything is stored in each one of these SiteCom Rig instances. So in summary, we achieve data aggregation by using our sensor converter application, and we aggregate all the data from multiple sources and formats, and we store everything using the WITSML format. By using the WITSML standard, we achieve the data standardization goal that we have. And finally, by having everything stored in the SiteCom Rig server or synchronized to a central location, we ensure that the data is accessible both on the rig or from the central location for offsite collaboration, if that's the ultimate goal for the customer. So that's all the material that we prepared for today. Thanks a lot for your attention. And if you have any questions or want to schedule some follow-up conversation or a demo session, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you. And Jacob, back to you.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Now, I'd like to open the floor for any questions that you may have. As mentioned, if you prefer, you can also email us directly. I have a few questions here from customers that were sent in earlier. Does the SiteCom Rig require KDI provision resources, or can it be on customer-owned resources?
No, it can be. We can do it both ways. We have a list of course, of hardware specifications, and if the customer is to provide the hardware or the virtual machine, we just provide the list of requirements so that the SiteCom Rig can be installed on a system with enough resources for all the processing that is needed.
Another question, would the SiteCom Rig WITSML also have sensor converter functionality?
In that particular scenario, no, because those are different, let's say, different types of configurations. And for that particular one, it's only synchronizer to enable pulling and pushing of data. Of course, sensor converter, this we can, since we use different applications to achieve different goals. Depending on the customer needs, we can also work on designing a solution that works the best for the customer. So if at some point there is the need for, as I mentioned, global mnemonics or the smart agents or some other type of specific configuration, we can discuss about it, because that's one of the benefits of this our system, that we have the different applications that work together, right? And we can just design to fit the customer needs.
Is there a maximum number of feeds that are allowed on sensor converter?
There is no fixed number or like maximum number. We are one thing that I think I forgot to mention is that we can handle all these different data feeds at the same time. Any combination of with zero, OPC, NMEA, etc., etc. What I've seen in other installation across a long time is that we've been able to work to configure 6, 7, 8 different data feeds at the same time, and the total number of records, I will guess, for those cases, have been, my estimate is more than, I will guess, more than 50 different records. So we just need to keep in mind that an important factor are the hardware resources, right? So as long as the resources are enough, I think we'll be able to handle all like a typical scenario with all these different data feeds, cementing, mood logging, LWD, etc., the rig system, etc., etc.
And could you explain what you mean by standardization and global mnemonics on a SiteCom Rig?
Yeah. So, and especially when we receive the data feeds in WITSML format already, what we've seen is that there is all the different data providers, they use different naming conventions, right? And sometimes that complicates things for the customer. So what we do in Global Mnemonics is that this application allows us to map all these different mnemonics, different WITSML logs using different naming conventions. We map it to global mnemonics, and then we agreed on a naming convention with the customer, and then the global mnemonic service allows us to really integrate everything. And the end result for the user is that the user will only need to use the output from the global mnemonics application using the naming convention that has been confirmed by the customer. So that's a big benefit for the customer, because instead of having to deal with all these different combinations of WITSML log names and mnemonics, they only need, by using global mnemonics, they will only need to use one naming convention that has been defined by themselves. So that's the benefit.
Thank you, Rodrigo. I don't have any additional questions that we've had coming in from customers, but as mentioned, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you would like any further clarifications or a demo, please reach out to us as well. I'd like to thank you all for your time and look forward to seeing you in our upcoming webinar series as well. Thank you all and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.